The theme for the second panel is Enhancing Urban Attractiveness and Resilience. And we are pleased to have Jennifer DeBruhl, Director for the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation, joining us as moderator. Ms. DeBruhl was appointed to her current position in June 2022 and also serves as a member of the Commonwealth Transportation Board, chair of the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority Board, and as a board member for several transit organizations around the Commonwealth. She also has over 20 years of public service at the Virginia Department of Transportation and Federal Highway Administration. I'll now turn the time over to her to introduce the panelists and lead the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to start off and thank JITTI and APTA for the opportunity to be here today. Chris Brady started out the last panel by talking about what a hard act Jennifer Mitchell is to follow, and I can vouch for that personally. I will also say it is a hard act to follow panel number one, but we will try to do that. The theme of our last panel this afternoon is enhancing urban attractiveness and resilience. And really with this panel, we're going to pivot a little bit more to our urban rail systems that are the lifeblood of the infrastructure that support our urban environments, and particularly in Japan, where urban development has been cultivated mainly around railroad stations, where people tend to congregate, since railways and buses are the main means of transportation. In the US, things are a little bit different, but transit-oriented development is one approach, and we're going to delve into that a little bit and see how we can use transit-oriented development and learn from the experience in Japan to reduce our dependence on automobiles. Additionally, we're going to talk about resilience on this panel, and I know in Virginia with our transit systems just in the last month, we've dealt with flooding, we've dealt with wildfires, and the changes in the environment and climate change are certainly impacting our operations, and so we're going to spend some time on the panel talking about how those effects of climate change have become more frequent and severe, how we as operators need to take measures and to make adjustments in order to maintain our transportation functions and to maintain that connectivity. We'll also talk a little bit about the environmental advantages of our railways as a countermeasure to the investment policies here in the U.S. in the context of those investments in terms of climate change. We have a wonderful panel this afternoon. I'm so excited. Our first speaker this afternoon, I'm going to introduce all four, and then we'll walk through some presentations before we get to the questions that have been generated by the audience. Our first speaker will be Mr. Masayoshi Uemura, who's a Senior Managing Director for Urban Business with Hankyu Corporation. Noriyoshi Yamagami, Managing Executive Officer responsible for International Business Development at Tokyo Metro. Ms. Catherine Rinaldi, President of MTA Metro North Railroad, and Ms. Holly Arnold, Administrator and CEO for the Maryland Transit Administration. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Mr. Uemura to start us off.
Thank you for the introduction, Jennifer. Hello, everyone. I'm Masayoshi Uemura from Hankyu Corporation, Osaka, Japan. And thank you so much for inviting me to this symposium. Today, I'd like to introduce our urban railway development as a Japanese railway operator's case example. I'm sorry, but I'll speak in Japanese from now.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to give you an overview of our Hankyu Corporation. So you can see on the left-hand side that has an enlarged image of Osaka or Osaka region. So this whole Hankyu Railway route map is here. In the center, it's Osaka, and then also Kobe, Takarazuka, and also Kyoto. We have 3 routes. And then the total length is 140 kilometers. A number of stations is 87 stations. And then also we have 1.79 million people riding our system per day. So I had the experience of riding the Washington, D.C. Metro. So that means that our system is about 70% of it. And then also our ridership is 3 times of the Washington, D.C. Ridership. And then you can see how our company started on the right-hand side. So this was established by Ichizo Kobayashi. So he's the father or founder of this metro system. Mr. Kobayashi had this idea and also 3 other ideas. And then the first one is real estate and housing development and also developing leisure facilities. And also number 3 is opening the Hankyu department store as part of the station terminal. So he thought that business is to benefit the masses first. And then so this principle is still close to our hearts. And so I'd like to first talk about housing development along the railway lines. And then you can see on the left-hand side, so this was before the railway was laid out. So you don't see any houses or any other developments at all. So we purchased approximately 825,000 square meters of land. And then so we laid out the tracks and also developed the real estate plots. And so our founder talked about how people can live better in the suburban areas and also commute to downtown area. However, this business model was very successful. That means that we have very dense population here. And then so we have been continuing on this tradition of housing businesses. So you can see some of the examples here. So we'd like to provide a better quality of life to people and also better housing to people. And also number 2 is developing leisure facilities in the suburbs. So with the open of the commercial operations of railway systems, we have decided to open a zoo and also Takarazuka Theater. And then actually this Takarazuka Theater is all female actors, and then also it has been in business for 100 years or longer. And also they sometimes put in Broadway playbills as well, and then you can see the first Takarazuka Theater and also the updated version here. And then this is a great example of Takarazuka Review Theater. And so they have close to 100% uptime as the theater operation time. And also the third pillar is opening the Hankyu department store as part of the station terminal. And then so back in 1920, the completion of Hankyu building is done. And then also you can see on the right-hand side, so on the lower floors, those are the department store floors, and then also the top floors are used as commercial or office tenants. And so our founder, Ichizo Kobayashi, he talked about city planning and also creating values for the local area. So he said, if a rail service does not attract passengers and also falls into the red, then you should generate passengers. To do that, you just need to create sites along the railway lines and also where people can gather. So that means that we were able to create our own demand and also attract people. And then so that means that this is a big shift from demand chasing. However, we went on to demand creation management. And so this is the big model that other railway companies in Japan follow after. And then you can see what kind of railway development and also real estate development we do. And so you can see that people can live and also shop at the department store, and also people can commute to offices. And you can see that if you have one downtown area and then also the residential area, the movement can be only one way. So that means that we need to have demands on the both ways. And then so you can see our area development here. So these purple ones are actually owned by our company or our group companies. And in summary, I'd like to mention that we have a very good sustainable railway business model. So that means that we start with the railway development, and then also we attract people so that people can live there and also shop there and also they can run errands near the railway routes. And then so we have been continuing on with this tradition even through the COVID pandemic. And then I'd like to show one picture of a train car here. And then so these mascots, this mascot is actually from World Expo Osaka that's coming up in 2025. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Yamagami, would you like to give your presentation?
Thank you, Jennifer. A very good afternoon to you all. My name is Noriyoshi Yamagami from Tokyo Metro, and I'm going to touch upon our preparedness for natural disasters. This is our overview. Tokyo Metro is responsible for a core part of the railway network in the greater Tokyo area, operating 9 subway lines with 195 kilometers and 180 stations. We carry 5.95 million people every day. For us, the great serious risk lies in a large-scale flooding, and this risk is becoming even greater in Tokyo due to the recent frequent torrential rains. In 2010, National Disaster Management Council of Japan revealed that the majority of subways would be submerged due to large-scale flooding caused by the overflowing Arakawa River, very big river. The red lines in the figure on the left indicate submerged subway lines. If countermeasures are taken, the damage can be significantly mitigated as shown in the figure on the right. Based on that simulation, we set about further development of flood preventive measures, including watertight station entrances, flood prevention gates at tunnels, etc. And this is about plant suspension. We also take this measure, our main countermeasure against flooding. If weather forecast warns a threat of major flooding, we make an advance announcement and implement planned suspension prior to typhoon landing. This ensures 0 passenger at stations. After suspension, we take measures to prevent flooding of stations and critical facilities, then evacuate train cars and employees, and finally close watertight gates. A planned suspension enables us to protect our customers and facilities without confusion and to resume operation smoothly and early. We think that the disaster management should be focused on how to protect customers' safety, how to prevent or mitigate damages to facilities, and how to resume transport services without disruption. We take the same approach for the earthquake countermeasure. We have been enhancing reinforcement against earthquakes so that even extremely strong earthquakes will not cause collapse. Thanks to the strong facilities, smooth and early resumption of operations is possible. In the event of a strong earthquake, we ensure our passengers' safety by making an emergency stop. Our earthquake warning system makes the train stop immediately. Then stop trains run to the nearest station to evacuate the passengers. Then a walking inspection is conducted. In the past, if anyone of 6 seismographs exceeded the regulation value, the entire network used to be inspected by technical staff on foot. But after the area, some graphs at 36 locations were installed in 2007. We conduct inspections depending on the measurement of each area. Walking inspections are conducted only at areas where a strong earthquake is measured. We can resume operations area by area wherever safety is confirmed. Through this procedure, resumption of operations can be done much earlier than before. In summary, in preparation for natural disasters, we have been conducting various countermeasures to protect the lives of our customers, to prevent or mitigate damage to facilities, and rolling stock or prompt resumption. By so doing, we managed to support the function of Tokyo, and this is our mission. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. All right, Kathy?
Hi, everybody. My name is Kathy Rinaldi. I'm the president of Metro North Railroad in New York, and for about a year and a half, I was also the interim president of the Long Island Railroad. Both of those railroads are part of the New York Metropolitan Transportation Authority, which also includes the subways, the buses, bridges, and tunnels in the New York metropolitan area. But I'm going to speak largely about commuter rail here, mostly about Metro North, but a little bit about Long Island. There we go. Okay, thanks. Stop my time. Okay. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about my system without the map being up. The map should be coming up shortly. So Metro North serves the northern suburbs of New York, so serves Westchester County, Putnam County, and then under contract with the state of Connecticut, serves Fairfield and New Haven counties. We run 746 weekday revenue trains, 683 of those in that area, and then we also have a service agreement with New Jersey Transit to operate service west of Hudson, and we operate 63 west of Hudson trains. The Hudson River, oh, there we go. There's my map. Okay, so now you can see what I'm talking about there. So by and large, most of our services on the east side of the river. We do run service on the west side of the river under contract with New Jersey Transit. I was about to say that the Hudson River may be called a river, but it is actually a tidal estuary, which will become more relevant as we talk about some of the resiliency challenges that we deal with at Metro North. The Long Island Railroad is there down to the right. It's a much older railroad than Metro North. Metro North recently celebrated its 40th anniversary. Long Island is coming up on its 190th anniversary, so they've been around quite a long time. And that service serves the suburbs of New York and also Brooklyn and Queens. Paul Skatelis alluded to it in his opening remarks. Long Island recently unveiled a second terminal within the city of New York, Grand Central Madison, which is below the existing Grand Central Terminal. An exciting development that provided a 41% increase in service, for those customers on Long Island, and also created tremendous connectivity between the two railroads, the one upstairs and the one downstairs. So let's talk about some of the resiliency challenges. Again, I'm going to focus pretty much on Metro North, but some of these things are in common to both railroads. We have seen significant challenges over the course of the last couple years, largely because of heavy rains. We had, as you'll all recall, Hurricane Sandy in 2012. That was largely a storm surge event that caused infiltration of salt water really throughout the system. But over the course of the last couple years, it's been the torrential rains that have really kind of knocked us for a loop. So if you look at some of these statistics, which came from a study in the city of New York, the expectation is between now and the 2050s, you're going to see 3 times more likely severe coastal events, average monthly high tides up to 30 inches higher. So that's that issue of clear day flooding on the monthly basis for the high tide. The torrential rain events have been significant. So we've doubled the amount of torrential rain events and 3 times as many extreme heat events across our system. I feel funny saying this in Washington, D.C., but nobody moves to New York for the weather. Okay. So here is how this plays out on both systems. So you can see here the tracks, again, I'm going to focus a little bit on Metro North, but you can see how these torrential rain events will affect tracks. The locations that are highlighted in red on the map experience stormwater floods during one or more recent torrential rain events. So that includes portion of the Hudson and the Harlem lines, which is up to the north there for Metro North, and the Port Washington and Long Beach branches of the Long Island Railroad. So if you see that photo to the left, that's actually Great Neck Station on the Port Washington branch on Long Island. And to the left, you can see some mudslide that affected the Hudson line along Metro North territory. Part of the problem, it's more an issue on Metro North, but to a certain extent on Long Island as well. We have 40% of our track, and 19% of Long Island Railroad track is near a steep slope or embankment. So the rain exacerbates, it's not just the rain on the tracks, it's also the mud going down the tracks when you have those kinds of extreme weather events. So quickly, I get an extra minute. So quickly, these are coastal tracks here. This is just low-lying tracks along both railroads. Back to my estuary point, the Hudson River is a tidal estuary. So even after the rain, hours a day after the rain, you can have flooding that basically knocks the system for a loop and actually will shut us down. So I'm going to actually go a little bit here we go. So what have we been doing to address these risks? Largely, it's been old school over the course of the past couple storms. It's essentially raising up the infrastructure to be able to protect it better from the effects of flooding. So here in Garrison, this is on the Hudson line, we had a significant flooding event over back in June of last year, and then repeated flooding events over the course of the past several months, all related to heavy rain. And what we're doing is raising the track bed. We're dumping stone. We're raising the track bed, truckload after truckload, to be able to protect us against these tidal surges that occur after heavy rains. We are raising our signal boxes in the same way. We had significant flooding from heavy rains at the end of September of last year. 200 tons of ballast has been used to build up this signal box, and as well as old ties. Again, this is old school, not very fancy, but this is what we're doing to try to protect our system against these kinds of events. Let's pivot very quickly to TOD since I'm on borrowed time here. It's part of the overall theme, really, right? How is regional rail relevant, and how can we show to our riders why regional rail is relevant to the recovery and really the economic vitality of the region? These are some projects in and around Grand Central where we were able to partner with developers to get them to construct transit improvements that benefit the riders in and out of Grand Central, but that also allow them to build a little bit more in return for those contributions for transit projects. So this was a concourse that was built in connection with the One Vanderbilt project right next to Grand Central. This concourse benefits the new Grand Central Madison concourse, as well as the subway, as well as Metro North. Here is just some themes of TOD. This is what you're looking at here is a recently unveiled TOD project in Harrison and Westchester County. There was a ribbon cutting with the governor back in August. These are some of the themes that we're working with in terms of our TOD project. Again, unlock the benefits of building near our system. Housing is a huge, huge issue in New York. New York is not alone in that. And how can we partner with developers in the region to build affordable housing near our transportation networks that helps to ameliorate the issue that all of our communities are experiencing. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic over.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Holly Arnold. I'm the administrator and CEO of the Maryland Transit Administration. I can't say MTA because there's too many of those, and we're a smaller version of theirs. So our system, we are multimodal. So we do have 6 service modes. We have a core bus system, light rail, metro, paratransit, our MARC commuter rail system, and commuter bus operating throughout the state of Maryland, but primarily in Baltimore City and Baltimore County. So we have 3 different types of rail that we operate, light rail, subway, and commuter rail. And we are also building the Purple Line, which Paul Scatellis mentioned, in Montgomery and Prince George's counties outside of Washington, D.C. So we will have a 4th different type of light rail line that we're going to be responsible for maintaining and operating. That is currently still the largest transit public-private partnership in the country, and we've been continuing to move forward with construction there. Ridership-wise, we had in FY23 about 55 million riders over our entire system. Ridership continues to grow and recover after the pandemic. I want to dive a little bit in on the Purple Line and talk some of the TOD opportunities that we're seeing there and the integrated planning that we've been able to do with the local jurisdictions as part of this project. So this is it is a 16-mile light rail line, really improving east-west travel in Montgomery and Prince George's counties outside of Washington, D.C. here. The goals are reduced congestion, increased connections, improved travel time for riders. I want to really highlight the multimodal connections. You know, we are connecting to multiple different WMATA stations. We're connecting to Amtrak stations, to our MARC stations, commuter rail, and then the local bus systems in both Montgomery and Prince George's counties. We've been fortunate enough to work with local jurisdictions that are supportive of the project, that have set aside and dedicated land for the project to ensure that it can be successful. And they've been partnering with us in ensuring an equitable TOD approach for the project. So we've partnered with the University of Maryland National Center for Smart Growth to make sure that as we are building this fantastic light rail line, bringing more access to people, that we're not displacing the people that are currently there. So they have a data-driven strategy that we've been using, looking at equity, people-first access, and making sure that folks can access these great stations that we're building. Currently, there's over $2 billion in real estate investments that are planned or underway along the corridor, including 8 million square feet of development. And then just this session, the General Assembly has really, and the governor have really been focused on housing. Again, housing is a problem in Maryland as well. We need more housing. One of the bills, the governor's bills that was passed, included density bonuses for housing near rail stations, which we're very excited about. The Purple Line will be included here. And then including additional density bonuses for affordable housing. So I do really see the Purple Line as a great opportunity for the region. It's something that we're looking towards as we are continuing to grow in Baltimore City as well. So speaking of other MTA efforts, we are also relaunching the Baltimore Red Line. So this is a project that was planned for a number of years. Unfortunately, back in 2015, the previous administration decided not to move forward with it and returned a lot of federal money, but we are making it happen again. We're really excited, learning from some of the mistakes of the past, I think. And we do see this as, again, more than a transit project. So obviously, we do get to benefit from what we are learning on the Purple Line. The Red Line is truly, thinking about the historical context of this neighborhood, an opportunity for us to right a lot of wrongs. It connects neighborhoods that have been disconnected, including, a scar of a highway that was built in the middle of one of these neighborhoods, really disconnecting it. And so we see this project as that opportunity to do that, and we really want to focus, again, on those TOD efforts and the access benefits that this is going to bring at our stations. We did just win a TOD grant from Federal Transit Administration to look at the West Baltimore MARC station here, which we do see as one of the keys in West Baltimore. It will connect the future Red Line. It does connect with our MARC system, and we see it as a real opportunity to show how we can do really true sustainable TOD and improve that area. We're also, again, learning from the mistakes of the past. We built our current light rail system with no federal money as quickly and cheaply as possible. So they used an old freight rail line that runs not really near where a lot of development is, not near where people live, along a stream bank with a high embankment that is owned by the City Department of Forestry, and they don't want to cut down any trees. So we deal with a lot of the sustainability issues there of being able to maintain a system where I've got trees falling down on my catenary several times a year. But part of that too is really looking at our downtown and the downtown spine and how we can use the Red Line, connecting with the rail replacement grant that we just received to rethink what downtown can look like and really kind of spur development there. And then, I'm happy to answer any questions as we get into it, but we are looking at TOD throughout our entire system and how we can really leverage the investments that we've made to bring more riders to the system and to improve the need for housing and the need for better land use in the state.
All right. Thank you, Holly. So we're going to jump into our questions, and as you've seen from the presentations, we're covering kind of a broad spectrum of topics with this panel. But I want to start with something that Holly mentioned, and that was recovery from the pandemic. As mobility patterns have changed quite a bit since the pandemic, and I'm going to direct this question to all of our panelists, I really want each of you to talk about how you as operators have adjusted your service delivery coming out of the pandemic, and how your communities have responded to that. And Holly, since you mentioned it, I'm going to throw it to you to start.
Sure. Yeah, so, I think as most agencies across the country have seen, lower ridership since the pandemic, more folks who are taking advantage of at least partial work from home or hybrid workforce. We are seeing significantly higher ridership on, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in our system during the weekdays. But one of the things that we've seen is increased demand on the weekends. So our weekend ridership recovery on our MARC system, our commuter rail, is 70% compared to just under 50% during weekdays. So there is more desire for people to take transit for all types of trips. We've also seen a lot of events kind of generating additional transit ridership. People don't want to have to sit in their car, deal with parking, deal with traffic. And so we've really tried to ramp up. Our light rail is right next to our football stadium, our baseball stadium, and our arena. And so as much as possible, how can we ramp up service, advertise that it's a good option, and try and get people to kind of use it during that time. And then the one other thing I wanted to highlight that we're seeing quite a bit of is a real desire for bikes and multimodal access, that first last mile connection. Man, I get a lot of complaints about we do allow bikes on our system, and a lot of complaints about we need to allow more bikes on our system. And so we're continuing to try and make sure that we have that access for people to be able to, jump on the train when they get to where they're going, just jump on their bike and go.
Kathy?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of the same trends that Holly is seeing. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, at least with respect to commutation ridership, are certainly strongest. On those days, we're probably, in the mid to high 70s relative to pre-COVID ridership, which is great. More people coming back on Mondays, and Fridays are super quiet. So actually one of the things that we're launching tomorrow is a spring schedule that actually adds some service on the shoulders of the peak, because it's gotten to be more of a getaway day, and a little bit less service during peak hours, because people are just not traveling the same way that they were before the pandemic. Again, I completely agree with respect to discretionary travel on the weekends. In some days we're higher than where we were pre-COVID. I think that's been sort of an unexpected bright spot to the whole recovery of the region after COVID. And the other thing that I would add, and I think it was something that existed on Metro North before the pandemic and has really been, really a bright spot ever since the pandemic, is the reverse commute. We used to have commuter railroad in our name. We took that out because it's a railroad that really, many years ago, really cultivated a reverse commute to employment destinations north and east of the city. And a lot of those people are actually in service jobs. So some of those people were the first to come back. They worked during the pandemic. So if you go to my Fordham station in the Bronx, that's a busy station, and as many people, probably more people are going north than are going south. Those people came back early, and they continue to ride, and we're developing service programs and plans to be able to serve that reverse commute market, because it's a very important market for us.
Yeah, as the previous speaker said, our revenue is severely affected by the pandemic, but it has been steadily recovering. However, the commuter pass revenues have declined due to remote work or the web meeting. And it hasn't been returned to the previous level, the level before the pandemic. But on the other hand, in the non-commuter pass service, we think there's a room for growth in terms of inbound tourism or the excursion demand. And we are working very hard to capture strong demand of inbound tourism, and by developing a special ride pass for inbound tourists. And we are working to stimulate demand for excursions through the expanding the Metro Point club services and rolling out special tickets combined with commercial facilities as a special offer for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
日本の関西
In terms of Kansai region, the western region in Japan, I have earlier spoke about the weekend and then weekends. But you see, in Japan, we have more return during the weekdays. But during the weekends, Saturday, Sundays, we have not seen a full recovery since COVID. I think there are a lot of reasons. I think one is that the senior citizens stopped being active. They are going out less. And there's also secondary, transportation methods needs to be more developed, and also there should be more rail tracks or trains with comfortable seating where people can make a reservation or reserve a seat. And also there are foreign visitors into Japan in our Kansai region, and there are ways to purchase tickets by just using your credit card. And so one can easily purchase tickets. So when people come to Kansai, there are really easier ways to buy tickets. Foreign visitors do not have to exchange their currency into yen. They can just simply use their credit card. So these are the type of measures that we are taking. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Uemura, I'm going to direct the next question to you as well. What role do you see your rail system playing in enhancing the attractiveness of your city, and what kind of partnerships are you using to accomplish that?
Yes, just as I mentioned before, this really, you see, railways really can cooperate with a region to attain the economic growth in that particular region. In order to do so, there are many stakeholders, particularly the local government. These are the places that we need to partner with. There are also, recently we've seen an increase in the citizen involvement. So we really try and make an effort to have good communication with them. And so we do conduct economic growth through that, but we also need to have long-term vision as well, as far as how the economy is supported by the rails, and also how people can support the railroads. So there really is a multi-stakeholders, and we need to have a relationship with them. And when some problems arise, we can all cooperate together. You see, in order to create urban development, we do need to have land usage. So we also need to cooperate with developers. So there are also urban development that needs to see cooperation with the local governments, but we also have to cooperate with the developers as well. So thank you.
Our next question is for Mr. Yamagami. And with this question, I want to talk a little bit about extreme weather and how, you talked a lot about the preparations to deal with extreme weather with your system. What kind of partnerships and cooperation do you see with your partners in Tokyo to help prepare for and respond when you do have extreme weather?
We believe safe space and smooth movement of people are core elements for the people's economic activities and people's daily lives. And the transportation, including us, should play a crucial role to provide safe and reliable transport and to secure those core elements. And to realize this, we need to tackle natural disasters. And taking countermeasure against natural disasters, collaboration with related entities is crucially important. If you think about the flooding, if measures for flood prevention facilities are taken only Tokyo Metro, but not by related railway companies, connecting buildings, already connecting commercial facilities, and then flooding will spread through the subway after all. And so all entities who are physically connected by, especially in the subway case, subway case must work together. In case of a large-scale flood again, people can avoid suffering inside railway facilities by plant suspension. But on the other hand, evacuation by rail will be made impossible after the shutdown, plant suspension. To ensure that as many people as possible evacuate by rail, it is necessary that local governments call residents to evacuate prior to the shutdown so that people can get on trains. But for that, well-coordinated procedure is vitally important, and it is only possible by collaboration between train operators and the local governments. Thank you.
Thank you. So for our next question, Kathy and Holly, this one I'm going to send to you. And maybe it's because it's budget season for all of us. We've heard from our Japanese colleagues that their systems are primarily private corporations, and here in the US, they're primarily a public utility. How are things going for you to gain consensus on how to pay for public transportation, both from an operations perspective and a construction perspective in our current financial climate? And you guys can pick one.
Yeah, I can go first. So New York MTA, like a lot of other transportation authorities and agencies across the country, was blessed to get federal aid to be able to get us through the worst of the COVID downturn in ridership. And like a lot of other, I think like all of the other transportation agencies, dealt with what we've been calling the fiscal cliff. That, eventually, the ridership, was not where it was before, and the money was going to run out. So we were very fortunate last year to make the case, and it was a real, full court press to make the case to elected officials in Albany and, the governor's leadership to be able to get funding to be able to continue our operations. I mean, really making the case that in New York, my boss says transit is like air and water, and it really is. I mean, you don't have to convince people that transit is what makes New York, New York. So there was, I think, a tremendous recognition that that additional funding was going to be necessary for us to continue to be able to provide the service that was going to be necessary for New York to continue to be New York. So, it was sort of a kind of a smorgasbord of different taxes and fees, a payroll mobility tax, and some money from casinos when the casinos start up, and just, kind of a little bit of everything to be able to get us to be able to get the funding that we needed on the operating side, taken together with efficiencies that, that we needed to put into place with respect to our own operations to be able to show that we are credible stewards of public money, because that's a really important part of being a responsible transportation provider. On the capital side, we're actually making that case now. We have a 5-year capital program. We're sort of towards the end of our capital program now. So we're starting to get together what that next, list of needs will be for the upcoming capital program. And then, as I think folks have been reading, we've got congestion pricing, which is coming to New York, which is an important funding strategy for the current capital program that we're in now.
Holly.
Yeah, a lot of similarities, I think, between New York and Maryland. We're incredibly fortunate to have a governor who's incredibly supportive of transit, recognizes the benefits and the needs for transit and improving transit in the region. And similarly, I think the General Assembly, we've been doing a lot of selling over the past year of the need for, it's interesting, like operating funding is the one that, like, it's just basic, but for a lot of people, they think more capital, and I want this capital project and that capital project. And it's like, no, we have to be able to keep operating and keep going with the things that we have. And so we've been, because of the fortune that we've had with some of our elected officials, there's a couple reports that we've put out that are helping to just sell the benefit of, we need to fund what we have today, and we can point to those pretty consistently. This session, the General Assembly did pass a slight budget increase, and I was really impressed with the way that they instructed the state to waterfall it. So we're kind of part of the state government, and so the funds come through the State Transportation Trust Fund. But they said first highway user revenues, so that goes to the local jurisdictions to basically make sure that they can maintain their existing roadways, maintain their existing systems, which for MTA is very beneficial because Baltimore City will be able to maintain their roads, maintain their sidewalks. We have a lot of asks of our local jurisdictions to help us prioritize transit on those streets, and we need them to be able to maintain them. So that's a huge benefit to us. The next was funding for locally operated transit systems across the state, so small urban and regional rural systems to make sure they have their funding. Third was MTA operating, and fourth was MTA state of good repair. So very clearly transit is seen as a benefit to the state of Maryland, and we've been able to sell the need to continue to invest in it. There was also a commitment to recognize that we're not there yet. We haven't filled that hole fully, and so we're going to come back next year, continue to partner, and continue to fight for more.
Thank you. So we're going to go with our last question. I know we have a couple panelists that have trains to catch, and we want to keep this train running on time. So I'm going to ask kind of to steal Chris's language, I'm going to ask kind of the blue sky question. Each of the panelists very, very quickly. Biggest thing on the horizon for your system, biggest opportunity from a vision perspective as you look forward. What do you see the future looking like? And I'm gonna, Mr. Uemura, I'm gonna make you go first.
Thank you very much. That's an open-ended question and also a difficult one. So transit-oriented development is definitely an important thing, and also I think that people need to have a behavior to commute by transit as well. And then so in Japan we do have many private train operators, and then so not only one train operator can encourage people to use transit. So that means that we need to work collectively together with other operators so that we can provide seamless transit systems all together. And then also for that, we need to think about developments alongside of the train routes, and then also switching from cars to train. That means that we need to have walkable landscape. So that's something that we need to focus on. So in the first panel discussion, they talked about trying out Shinkansen. That's the biggest appeal. And so that means that in our case, people need to walk around the neighborhood and also try the transit, and then also go to different cities. And then so last year I actually visited Portland and also San Diego. And then so those are really walkable cities and very attractive, and then also very vibrant cities as well. And then so I guess that that would make people very, very excited about walking around and also use the transit. So that means that driving a car, that means that you're missing out on those opportunities. And then so making the communities altogether attractive, I think that would attract people back to transit.
Yeah, the Tokyo Metro Group engaged in a variety of activities, but mainly within the railway business. Actually, approximately 90% of revenues comes from the railway sector. It is different from the Mr. Uemura-san's company. We are a little bit behind the Hankyu Corporation, but we are committed to continue to endeavor to pursue complete, safe, and reliable, customer-oriented transportation service to make Tokyo more attractive and vibrant. It is our first mission as a Tokyo Metro company. But on top of that, we are trying to spur real estate business, and we are trying to pursue a company which which is focused more urban design and lifestyle creation company. And we're trying to build two pillars. One is railway business, and the other is, which I mentioned, urban design, lifestyle creation company, of course, including real estate business. That is our now strategy. Thank you very much.
Kathy?
Yeah, I want to maybe touch on two of the themes in these presentations today. So the first, I guess maybe this is kind of good news, bad news. I think the first is just telling the story about resiliency and climate change, which is incredibly important. So if anybody has taken my system in New York, there's a place in the Bronx called Mott Haven where all three lines come together. And on September 29th, I was completely shut down because of heavy rain. And you can't have that. You brought those people into the city in the morning. You got to bring them home. So we need to figure out how to harden our system to be able to protect against risks like that, right? The other thing on, the brighter, happy note is just in terms of the system as an economic driver, really key to the economic vitality of the region is this upcoming capital project that's underway now, which is, working with our partners at Amtrak for Penn Access, right? So this is bringing trains in from the New Haven line on an existing Amtrak right-of-way into Penn Station, and it involves the construction of 4 stations in an underserved portion of the Bronx. These are people who have no access on commuter rail to job opportunities in the central business district, and also have no access to, or no meaningful access to job opportunities up the line in places like Stamford and New Haven and New Rochelle. I mean, this is something that's going to revolutionize public transportation in underserved communities and really knit the region together, and using commuter rail as the mechanism for knitting the region together. So we're really excited about that.
Holly, you want to round this out?
Sure. I do think it's an exciting time for rail and for transit in Maryland. We have $6 billion, thank you, Jennifer, that came from the FRA last year in partnership with Amtrak to continue to make improvements along the Northeast Corridor. We benefit from that. We're going to bring the Red Line, which will actually create a system, a connected system in Baltimore. We're going to finish the Purple Line, which again further builds out that connection and the benefits of connection in the state. And I think there's a lot of really good things that are happening, and I am excited for the future here.
I just want to thank this great panel that we gave them a very broad reaching topic and a lot of things to touch on in an hour, and they've done a fantastic job. So thank you for your time, and thank all of you for being here today. I appreciate it.